Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bensalem Township Council meeting. Today's date is July 22nd, 2024. I'm going to ask everyone in a moment to please stand for a moment of silent meditation or prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like everyone to please keep in mind the tragic attempt to assassinate Donald Trump at his rally, as well as I'd like you to keep in mind in prayers the family of the firefighter Comparator and his family, his wife and his children, as well as those who were injured. And I ask you at this time to please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Pizzo, I'm going to go to you and ask about any changes we've had for tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Kisselback. Item 7 on this evening's agenda, which is the lot line change application for Ken Fleck, Fall Pen 2 for 2975 Galloway Road. The applicant is here this evening. The applicant is requesting that the matter be tabled from this evening's meeting to your council meeting of October 28. And they've granted the township an extension of time through that period of time for the consideration and action on that application. Consistent with the comments that they received from council back at our meeting back in June, they are making changes to the application and are, I believe, seeking a rezoning of the property consistent with comments from council that evening. And that process, obviously, as council is aware, takes several months to effectuate because it will have to go up to the County Planning Commission before council can act on it. Representative of Foley and their council is here this evening if anyone from council has any questions of them. But otherwise, they're asking that the matter be continued to a date certain of October 28.
Okay, so we're going to ask for a motion from the council to table this until October 28th.
I'll make a motion that we table Ken Fleck, Foley Pen 2, 2975 Galway Road to a date certain of October 28, 2024 per the letter received by their attorney and Mr. Pizzo's advice.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
Second.
We have a second on the motion. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. And against, abstention. Now, if anyone in the audience is here for that hearing, when we come to agenda item number 7, I'm going to invite you to come up and speak if you would like to, or, of course, you're going to have that opportunity on October 28th. So if you'd like to leave because you have other things to do tonight, that's fine. If you'd like to stay until agenda item number 7, which won't be long to get to, you can say your piece, and you can also reiterate what you're saying on October 28th when the actual hearing occurs. All right, that being said, we're going to move on to, what other changes are there, Mr. Pizzo?
That's the only change of which I'm aware from the printed agenda. I am aware also that council may wish to consider this evening a resolution regarding 2 bills that are currently pending in the Pennsylvania State House that may soon come to a vote, and therefore council may want to act on them this evening. Those are House Bills 1976 and 2045. If council is of a mind to move those forward, or move that resolution forward this evening, then that will require a vote to amend the agenda, to add that as an agenda item, and then obviously a vote when you get to that item on the agenda. So if you want to add that resolution to your agenda, I would imagine as item 10A, a motion would be in order to do that.
Okay, well, I'm going to move it up to 4A. I'm going to ask that the council move that. We'll get that right off from the beginning instead of the end, Joe. And we'll make that 4A, and I'm looking for the agenda to be changed to consider this resolution regarding the Township of Bucks County of Pennsylvania and House Bill 1976, as well as House Bill 2045. I'd ask for a motion to be put on the floor, change our agenda.
Make a motion to add the resolution to item 4A.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second the motion.
We have a second on motion. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
And against, the abstention. Okay, there's two things that let us do some paperwork as far as the agenda itself. And at this time, I'd like to introduce the members up here at the dais so we know who we are. And, of course, I know who I am. We have Phil Wussel, our township engineer, to the extreme left. We have next to him Debbie McBreen, our executive secretary for the council. To the extreme right, we have Joe Pizzo, our solicitor. Next to him, the Honorable Mayor Joseph DiGirolamo. Our council members are, we'll start with Joe Knowles, secretary. We have Stacy Champion, council
I'm secretary.
secretary. I'm sorry.
Vice President.
Yes, okay, Vice President, Secretary. I'm sorry, that's why I should never change. Michelle Benitez, our council member. Joe Polari, council member, and Ahmed Kisselback. Okay, let's move on from there. Is there anyone, agenda item number 3, to have any public comments on anything at all on agenda items this evening? You have the opportunity when they're brought up individually, as you know, and you have a second bite of the apple at that time. Agenda item number 4 is going to be the approval of the council minutes for meeting of June 17th as well as June 24th. Are there any changes, deletions? If not, I ask for approval for both at the same time if there's no changes or deletions or additions.
Well, the 17th one, I think, okay, well, is,
Let's take them individually.
take them individually because we don't have the same people here.
Exactly, okay. You're
Okay,
right.
so I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for June 17th, 2024 as presented.
I'll second.
By motion on the floor to accept the as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
And against, the abstentions? And then the 24th, we'll ask for a motion for that also.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from June 24th, 2024 as presented.
All right, we have a motion.
Second.
Second on the motion. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye, and I will abstain. I was not at the meeting. Okay, moving right on. We'll go now on to agenda item number 4A, as we had just spoken about in a minute. And I'm going to pass this over to Michelle Benitez, who brought this to our attention. She's a member of the Bocata Group, Bucks County Association of Township Officials, and she brought this to our attention, so I'm going to have her take a moment or two to explain exactly what we're doing. You have the floor.
Thank you. So as Mr. Kisselback mentioned, Bocata, Bucks County Association of Township Officials, is in conversation with officials across the county that pertains to House Bill 1976 and House Bill 2045. House Bill 1976 is requiring that municipalities allow uses by right for multiple unit dwellings and mixed-use developments that include multiple unit dwellings in commercial zone districts. And House Bill 2045 requires that municipalities allow in single-family residential districts to use by right duplex, triplex, quadplex housing, effectively eliminating single-family housing districts in Bensalem. This is a very important topic to many of us in Bucks County, and we don't feel that the state should have oversight and authority over local decisions and zoning matters. Therefore, we are working together to move forward and oppose House Bill 1976 and House Bill 2045. Our resolution together this evening just shows our commitment to the county in having these conversations, moving it forward. I would also like to mention with these bills, this would not ensure any availability of affordable or attainable housing that's been discussed on a broader scale. So I think that, for us, it's important that we move this forward and we support the opposition of these two House bills being presented.
Okay, that basically is in a nutshell. So it allows us as a municipality and other municipalities to determine their future when it comes to zoning, as opposed to the state determining it for us. So that's what we want to avoid. Okay, any other questions, ladies and gentlemen from council?
Yeah, just to clarify, this is just a resolution from us that this is how we feel, but it's going to be up to the state legislators, state representatives in the Senate to actually pass it or not pass it.
That's
Absolutely
correct.
Right.
Yes.
I just want to clarify for the people.
Thank you, that's
Okay.
correct. Any other questions? Anyone from the audience? Not hearing anyone, I'll ask for a motion to be put on the floor to accept the resolution as presented to us this evening.
I'll make the motion to approve the resolution as presented in opposition of House Bills 1976 and 2045.
We have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
We do have a second on the motion. Any additional discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. And against, the abstentions, unanimous. Okay, we'll take care of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 5. This is a consideration and a public hearing. This is going to be on an ordinance vacating an abandoned 10-foot alley on Clovernook Avenue between Bucks County Tax Map Parcel 02-061-179 and Bucks County Tax Map Parcel 02-061-184. Mr. Pizer, can I have you help us out on this one?
Certainly. As you just explained in reading the caption, in order for this alley located between Clovernook, on Clovernook Ave to be vacated, it requires a petition to the township, which was submitted by the adjacent property owner, and then an action by the township to vacate the alleyway. The alleyway is considered part of the township's system of roads and avenues and streets, and so to vacate it requires an official action of council to do that. In this case, the portion that's being extinguished is shown in the plot plan which accompanies the application, which is the section that is crosshatched in red. The remaining portions of that alley would not be vacated by this action, and so those would continue to exist. Now, in this instance, the property owner on either side of the alleyway rather, is Cherry Premier Properties, and so by vacating the alleyway, you will effectively be creating one large parcel between tax parcel 261-179 and 261-184.
Do the adjacent property owners have to agree with this, since they're basically,
Or at least be notified.
yeah,
They have to have been notified, and they do have the opportunity to come before you this evening to either share their concurrence and approval, or to share with you their objection. I don't know if anyone is here tonight to do that, and I don't have with me, or at least I don't see, copies of the notices that would have gone out. So I can't represent to you whether those notices were properly provided or not.
well, let me ask you this time, is there anyone in the audience that is representing this application? You're standing up, is that you? Would you come up to the podium? You want to give us your name and your address? And you can make your presentation to us. And if there's anyone in favor of that, or anyone in favor of it, or not in favor of it, you can also come up and let us know too. And your name, sir, is?
This mic here?
It doesn't matter, we both carry.
This one here.
Okay.
How you doing, everybody?
You can stand up, we'll pick it up.
My name's Jeffrey Guevara. I'm the owner of Cherry Premier Properties, who's the owner of those 2 lots that are in question. We're looking to vacate the alley, basically because we're going to be constructing a home there, and we want to be able to meet the setbacks of this home's footprint. And so vacating this alley earns us another 10 foot. And so that allows us to meet the rear yard setback to be able to construct this home that we're looking to put up. This has been ongoing for about 2 years now. Originally, the adjacent property owners were notified by a lawyer, and they had never responded. I think at this point in time, as we see, nobody's here to argue this. Everybody just wants this construction to take place. It's kind of a disheveled lot at this point in time. There's some wetlands there. We have some construction equipment laying around, but this has been in permitting for well over a year. So I will say that they were notified. I have not spoken to them directly, but
Let
they
me
were.
interrupt you. When you say they were notified, were they recently notified, or were they notified 2 years ago?
Well, we purchased the lots 2 years ago, so they're probably notified 6 months after that. So at that point in time, they were notified.
Were they notified of this meeting?
They were not specifically notified of this meeting, but part of the advertisement, I would imagine, gives them the opportunity to be able to know that this is
No,
happening.
you have, see, you have to
send them a
provide
certified
to
letter.
the surrounding neighbors within a certain distance, a letter, certified, a registered letter stating your intentions.
Okay.
So if you don't have those receipts, which obviously you do not, to present to our township solicitor, I think we're going to have to table this and go on at a later date, just because of that.
One more thing I'd like to add is that the portion of the lot that we're looking to vacate is only between our 2 lots. And it's not the portion that actually is adjacent to their lots. So it doesn't affect them whatsoever.
Well, it has to be adjacent to 2 lots because there's 2 properties on the left of you and the right of you.
Right, and we own both of those lots.
I know you see the top and the bottom, but you do left and right too?
No, you could 6, not left and right, but that alley will still exist when this portion of the alley is hopefully vacated.
All right,
Looks like
well,
there's 2
I'm gonna rule
alleys
that
on
we
either
table, I'm gonna
side.
ask you, I'm gonna rule that we're gonna table this until a date certain, and you can check with our township solicitor in terms of the specifics of it, but you should have specifically notified them with a return receipt request, so they know what's happening. It's a minor detail. As far as looking at this and your request, I don't believe you're gonna have any problems that I can conceive personally. I don't know how the other council members see it, but I think it's minor in nature. But in order to do it right, since it is an ordinance that's vacating that lot, if you would, we need to have that specific detail in order.
So it's a detail. I mean, are there any specifics to how we notify them? A letter, certified mail? I just want to make sure that we have our.
Well, that's what I
ducks in a
said.
row.
You have to contact Mr. Pizzo's office, and he'll give you the actual details.
Yes, actually,
Oh, okay.
you should contact the Building and Planning Department tomorrow morning. Ask them to provide you with a list of the adjacent properties that need to be contacted, at which point in time, once they give you that list, you can give them the notice by mail. Since this hearing was advertised in the newspaper, and so as to avoid the expense of having to advertise a second time, we can table this to a date certain. That way, the newspaper advertisement will still be good, and this gentleman will know exactly who it is or what day it is that he can advise the adjacent property owners that the hearing's being held.
If you can complete that, our next meeting will be August the 12th. I think you should be able to resolve that within that time to make them notified. They have to have a certain amount of time before the meeting, but I don't think it's that difficult to achieve that and have this reschedule this to August 12th, if that's to your approval.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's reasonable.
Okay. Okay, that's the information. Is there any information you need from us then? have it?
No, that's all.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
All right, well, thank you. Sorry for the delay, but it's got to be done that way.
All right.
I ask for a motion to be put on the floor that we table this until a date certain of August the 12th.
Make a motion to table item number 5 regarding tax map parcel 02061179 and 02061184 to a date certain of August 12th.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second the motion.
We do have a second on the motion. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. And against, abstentions? Okay. Moving on. That's unanimous. Moving on to agenda item number 6. This is a consideration of a preliminary and a final land development for Brilla LLC, Anton Poter Yehin. Poter Yehin.
We'll take it.
Poter Yehin. And this is for Bristol Road, Auto Part Warehouse and Garage, General Industrial, and the Light Industrial. Tax map parcels are 02 017 068 001 02 017 090-001. Okay, now, just give us a general over. There you go. You were here before us, were you not?
Making this look extra pretty good. All right, here we go.
The attorney.
All right. Good evening, Council. Bryce McGuigan here on behalf of Brilla LLC. Thank you for having us here this evening. So we're here today for the properties located at 4304 and 411 Bristol Road. We're here to request preliminary and final land development approval for this project that has been going on for quite a while. Before I get into the nuts and bolts of the project, just a little bit of background here. This application relates to two separate parcels. There's the 4304 parcel, which is approximately 1.1 acres. Then there's a paper street separating that from the small parcel that we have, which is only 0.1 acres. That's 411 Bristol Road. Way back, I think 2022, we first received zoning relief for the property to have a storage use on the larger parcel, as well as to have a private garage, more or less, on the smaller parcel. And to provide a little bit more detail, my client, Brilla LLC, is owned by Anton Poter-Yahin, who's the young gentleman sitting here in the first row. Anton has his own business called Sprinter Supply, where it's essentially like a smaller version of the auto parts warehouse. You see the little vehicles going around everywhere. Essentially, they get in shipments about once per quarter of automotive supplies and parts. He has 3 employees who each drive their own vehicles. They come to the building in the morning, get their supplies, they go out and deliver them throughout the day to local automotive shops and auto body shops. That's essentially the business. Right now it works out of Philadelphia, but he's interested in owning his own property and he's interested in coming to Bensalem Township. So that's why Anton purchased these properties, and that's the goal, to move his business here to this particular site. With respect to the small property, it is only 0.1 acres. It is zoned just like the larger parcel, general commercial, so there's really not much you can do there from a general commercial standpoint. So what he's proposing is a private, personal use only garage that Anton and his father and his friend will use for the time being to restore old Land Rovers. And that's, again, personal, not something commercially oriented, no public participation in that, no public access to the property. Very similar to the large lot, which again will not be open to the public as well. The rationale for this was Bristol Road, especially in this particular area. Obviously, traffic is something that I think is a concern for the township. So something that is a low density use, not open to the public, which both of these are not open to the public, would be something that would fit with the community. We did have some neighbor participation at the zoning process, which is one of the reasons that we were initially denied at zoning. But we made some changes, took some input from the board, took some input from the neighbors, and we have the plan that you see before you today. And we've made, there's a number of conditions the zoning hearing board put on this, specifically related to Pine, which is the street to the side and leads to a neighborhood to the rear, that we will not have any doorways or access from Pine. We will not maintain buffering there. And also, actually, we made some, Vince can discuss this later on once we get to the fire marshal letter, but we're also agreeing to make some modifications to Pine in order to improve fire access and emergency access to the rear of the property.
Was that approved by the fire marshal, changes?
Yes, it was. In fact, we were originally scheduled to be before council last month, but then we learned that the fire marshal had some opposition to our latest iteration of our plans. So fortunately, the fire marshal took time out of his day to meet with Vince, and they went through, Vince Fioravanti, our engineer who's with me tonight, to discuss the project and discuss some potential modifications. And following that meeting, Vince was able to make some changes and got the fire marshal's blessing with respect to both access from the side of the property to the rear, as well as, I believe, an additional fire hydrant in the front of the property and modified connections in terms of water to the property.
Okay, that's an excellent overview. Let us take from this point, go to, we have a letter, and you should have received that, and it's from Traffic Planning and Design Incorporated, and the date is April 3rd, 2024. That's our latest letter. Is that correct, Phil?
Well, I believe I might be able to cut to the chase, because what I can tell you is every single element in that letter is a will comply with
Everything's changed, so
apart from the waivers. So I'd be more than happy to go through.
Apart from the,
not everything's
Waivers.
compliant. Okay, well, that's what we want to go over, the waivers. That's exactly.
All right,
So
go
we
ahead.
have, so we want to pick it up from there, okay? And we have Section 1, 201-104, that's a comply.
All right. I just want to make sure that we have the right order here, because I'm going off something a little different. So I'm borrowing Vince's,
But you can take your
annotated
time
copy.
when I address these to you, please.
Perfect.
So we have it right,
excuse
okay?
me, Ed.
Go ahead.
What's the date of the letter you're looking at?
April 3rd I have.
Okay, okay, I just want to be sure.
Yeah, you would think it would be later August or, July or something.
I thought you were saying June 3rd. I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh, okay, I got you. No, I understand.
all
All
right.
right, so we're together with this, but on section, let's go to subdivision and land development ordinance comments. Number 1, that will comply.
Yes,
Number
so
2, you're asking for a waiver, and that's the environmental protection of open space preservation. The updated proposed grading divert water to Pine Street at the southwest corner. Grading shall not take place within 3 feet of the property, and the applicant is requesting a waiver. Phil, do you agree with this? Yes. Okay, so that's a waiver request. All right, number 3, curbs, which is curbs should be provided by the developer approximately 489 feet along E Bristol Road, 61 feet along Grove, and 130 feet along Pine. The applicant is requested a waiver to pay a fee in lieu of install, as opposed to installing the curbs. Is that with your approval, Mr. Phil?
Yes.
Okay.
Lot 1, putting curbs, right? Waiver for the rest, is that what it says?
Proposed to curb entrance to lot 1 only. So is
correct.
the
So it's a
entrance.
partial waiver.
So, I have a question, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Mr. Worsta, given the fact that this is is this downhill here at this point? I'm trying to remember where we
It's all
are.
downhill.
I know it is all downhill, but I know there is a little bit of a plateau. I'm just concerned, with not having a curb from like a water perspective to keep it moving and not puddle
Slush
on
over
the side.
Bristol Road.
Our engineer discussed that with regard to how the water flow and so forth, because they are reducing the flow.
Off of theirs, but I'm worried about it continuing as it comes down Bristol Road without a curb. What happens to it as it goes along their grass?
Say if it comes down Bristol Road this way without a curb, how would it work?
Where's Pine?
Pine Tree.
So where's the train? Over here.
Right.
So it's going downhill from Pine.
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
I think it's going out right, like you're saying.
It's going from
Left to right.
left to right, that's downhill. You were going uphill, so it's going from Pine down. So I'm just trying to understand
Yeah,
why
I
a
can
curb
explain
would not be, I know there's not a lot of places with curbs there.
Right.
Not denying that. But we are building something new, and if it helps to get the water to continue to go down, if it's the right thing to do.
And
that's why
we
I'm
do
asking.
have curb, Vince Fioravanti, good evening, everyone. We do have curb proposed where it would be beneficial for drainage. When you look at Bristol Road, if I'm looking in this direction, there is a ridge or a high point. It is essentially all goes really from the south to the north, and there is a ridge here. You can see this culvert here, the PennDOT culvert. So there's a high point right about here where it actually drains backwards to this culvert and then to the Neshaminy. And from around where our entrance is to the right is all downhill and through that railroad overpass. So if you look at our stormwater management, we have drainage from the bottom to the top, intercepted by this swale, into a stormwater basin here, basin 1. Then it's transported to basin 2, into an inlet, back into the PennDOT inlet, and down to the Neshaminy. Essentially, this area will be undisturbed by our development in terms of drainage, but there'll be less water reaching the road, of course, because we're cutting it off and we're piping it under the stream into the culvert. So in this area, really, it'll be undisturbed. It's actually draining backwards into this culvert, and from the high point to the right, it'll also be undisturbed and draining to that overpass.
Is that a parking lot, or is that a swale? What
Here?
is it? No, right there.
This is a parking lot, so the entrance comes in here. There'll
So
be
is that an
6
underground, and that's an underground?
Underground
Okay, all right,
basin, yep,
all right,
there's
so it's
2 of them.
underground. Okay, that makes sense.
So we do have curb where it makes sense to have it, where it helps drainage, but out in the roadway, it'll be undisturbed really, and there'll be just less flow reaching there.
And then, I'm sorry, I have one more question, Mr. Orso. I know we're just finishing up the other side of the Bristol Road project, and we did all that, they did all that work in terms of the drainage to address it. Is that, do we have any idea of a timeline with your, are we talking the next 10 years, or this portion, yeah? Okay, could not be in our lifetime, so that's fine. That's fine. It's, yeah, okay. That could be not in our lifetime, the way they work. Okay, thank you.
All right, we're going to go to 3B. Continuing that then, we have the cartway width shall be widened by an additional 10 foot to meet the required of the widening of East Bristol Road. The applicant requests waiver and indicates a 10-foot sidewalk easement for future use. Mr. Worcester. That, I can see where it is, but does that?
We're fine.
You're fine with that, okay, so that's a waiver for A and B then. Number 4 would be section 201-111, that's similar to the curves, but this is now regarding sidewalks. Should be provided and the same amount of distance that I had read earlier on for the 3 different streets, and the applicant requests a waiver and pay a fee in lieu of, as opposed to installing the sidewalks, and so that is a waiver request, and you're fine with that? In lieu of payment?
Yes, obviously.
Okay. Nothing's obvious when it comes to that. But thank you.
Sure.
Okay, section 5, 201-112, motor vehicle parking facilities. And this is a waiver you're requesting. The proposed dead-end parking area in Lot 1 does not provide sufficient backup area for the end stalls and should be redesigned. The vehicle turning plan illustrates that a large SUV can make the maneuver for Lot 1. The applicant seeks a waiver for the condition for Lot 2. This office supports this action, and the applicant has added a sign. So we're in agreement with that, Phil, is that correct? Okay, so that's a waiver request also. And I think that's all you have for the waivers.
Well, that's all we have for waivers under the subdivision land development ordinance comments. There are, I'm remiss to say there are a few others.
All right, well, let me get to that, and let me just jump to the stormwater management, and we'll come back to the others, if you'd be kind enough to endure me on that. Okay? Stormwater management, it looks like everything is under control. We're 100-year frequency. You're at 11.62 CFS. And after post-development, it's 7.55. That's a considerable reduction of 4.07. 10-year flood is at 9.08, and you're way down to 3.50, which is remarkable, which is a 5.58 reduction. And then 1-year flood is at 5.82, and now you're at 3.72, which is a 2.10. Okay, let me hire your engineer right now.
It's right there. He's got cards.
That's an excellent report, in my opinion. Okay, so that's quite excellent. You talked to the fire marshal, and that's being taken care of?
Fire
Okay.
marshal is, yes, that has been
And
taken
now,
care
what
of.
other waivers are we considering here? Because I don't see any other. And
No, so if we go to the following page, we have a list of requested waivers.
okay, let me go from there. I know where you are. So we have 14 total.
Yes, that's correct. And,
All right, why don't you do it this way? From 1 to 14, in sequence, you pick up the ones that we did not already discuss.
All right, you're putting me on the spot here. I'm doing my best. So we didn't discuss number 1. Number one relates to the proposed drainage on site, specifically to allow drain time of less than or more than 24 hours. Is that right, Vince?
It's actually less. With the small storms, it's hard to hold the storm for 24 hours. The perk rates we got were relatively quick, so when you take that water quality volume, it might percolate into the ground in 18 hours or 12 hours. So that's a waiver. It's a good thing to have a quick perk, that way the basins don't fail. So that's a waiver to hold it for 24 hours.
And that mainly deals with the smaller storms, with obviously the larger ones. As you've seen with the stormwater management table that we have, we are making a substantial modification and improvement to the area.
All right, so we're requesting a waiver for number one.
Correct.
Number two?
Number two involves the material that we're using for the pipes on site, together with the minimum cover. It's supposed to be 2 feet. We're proposing between 1 and 2 feet. And I think Vince might be able to justify this one a little bit better than I
And on the
can.
pipe materials, the ordinance is written to require. The ordinance is written to require reinforced concrete pipe for all stormwater pipes.
Exactly, we're with you.
And current times, there's a lot of other materials, high-density polyethylene pipe that's typically used. So
We're
it's-
fine with that. You
Okay,
No
it's a
more
waiver for
explanation,
materials.
because that's normal nowadays. In fact,
Yep.
we have to catch up to you. Okay.
Perfect. So that's number two. Number three, I believe we discussed that as part of the subdivision land development comments. Again, we're submitted to PennDOT, and we're going to work with them on the issue.
That's a will comply.
That's going to be, right now, right now we're requesting a waiver from this particular section, but again, we know it's something that we have to work with PennDOT through. We know what it is, whatever.
So how does that work now in this conversation?
This is
We wouldn't be able to permit the waiver without
Okay.
the further approval?
We can't override PennDOT, so we're seeking a waiver under that, but whatever PennDOT makes them do, they have to do anyway.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And that's dedication of additional ROW, meaning
right of way.
right of way?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the dedication.
And where would that be at? Is that the 10-foot easement for Bristol Road?
Correct.
And so that would leave you with 13 feet rather than the zoning approved.
It's 22 and change, correct.
It's right, now it's like 23.1 or something? Oh, 20,
And-
the rear yard's 22, the front yard's 23.
And either way, I mean, whether it's an easement or a dedication of right-of-way, the property's still going to look the same, building's still going to look the same, the Pico poles are still going to be there. But like I said, we're working with PennDOT on this, but it's our intention that we're going to need this waiver in order to not dedicate that additional right-of-way.
Okay, number four?
Right. Number four is a plan details request to not show certain plan details within 400 feet of the property.
Okay.
Number five, waiver for preliminary and final together, which I'm sure this board has seen, this council has seen a few times. Number six, we've already discussed that, grading within 3 feet of the property line. 7 involves curbs, which we've discussed. 8, sidewalks, which we've discussed. 9 is with respect to having a planting strip between the parking area and the building. As if the council would like, Vince can discuss a little bit better than I can, but between the building and the parking area, there is a significant grade. And because of the existing topography there, it really limits what we can do in terms of buffering. And that was actually one of the issues that we discussed at length when, at zoning, when a number of neighbors came by. And that particular grading issue of our property compared to some of the properties behind us. So that was something we discussed at length. So we're still proposing certain plantings there, but we just can't comply with the ordinance as drafted, so that is a waiver.
So you have an overabundance of shrubbery, I'll call it, and plantings as the water comes down to capture that and move it along with the piping along and down.
Yes.
That's correct.
So you have all the plantings going in, all the shrubbery that's required for, or are you doing some fee in lieu of for anything that's not?
Well, we do have the 20-foot buffer planting as shown on the exhibit. I'm not sure that we've planted every shrub, and the detailed landscape requirements in the ordinance, we're requesting that this will be accepted as a waiver. I'm not sure we quantified the exact planting that will be required versus what we can fit.
And if I may, when we were at zoning, the first approval we received, it was from the mandatory 75-foot buffer yard. We went back again because there's another 20 or so feet or 25 feet that tacks on to that. So essentially, because this lot is so narrow, there was no way we could provide the buffers that otherwise required by the
Oh,
ordinance.
I'm not asking about the buffers, I'm asking for the amount of plants that are required for this lot as approved by zoning with all the variances. Is there enough plantings there? And if there's not, is there a fee that should be charged in lieu of? Or do we not?
Trees.
I'm just trying to
They're
understand.
putting the, as much as they can in that area,
So they're,
in that
they're,
tight area.
and I get it's a tight area, I'm just, so they're
The
doing,
amount of, the plantings and everything else will be maximized to the topography.
okay, thank you.
It's meeting the requirements.
Not for the regular, but for this one it is, right? With the revised buffers and various things?
Well, that's why there's a waiver, because it's a narrow area that you can't do anything.
Yeah, but I think, but if they don't meet what amount of plantings they were supposed to do, are they willing to pay in lieu of to our tree bank, for instance, if they're short? I mean.
For
that's-
this size lot,
or
not
that-
for-
Or that doesn't apply to this plan.
Not for, if it had all the bufferings, and I get we have an actual requirement, right? If it had the 75-foot bufferings, and they weren't doing the plants in the front, and they were doing a fee in lieu, I get that. But we did not look to make sure that what they're doing, would they be required for a fee in lieu?
That's correct. We did not look at a fee in lieu of for that.
To make sure what they're doing is adequate?
No, I mean, they're putting in plantings, it's just the map, I can't answer.
I don't have the answer for the question with regard to the number of plantings and whether that's normal or not, because it's just a small
Can the
piece.
applicant agree that if it's determined in the future that you're not meeting the requirements of plantings, that you'll pay in lieu of?
It can be
for the
made
difference?
part of the motion
Yeah,
and a
right, that's
waiver
what
on
I'm
that
saying, yeah.
specific
Right.
number 9.
Yeah, well,
You would
what-
agree with that?
I obviously would. Whatever council would prefer in terms of that, the applicant would be agreeable to. The one thing I do just want to make a point of is we are doing everything we can to plant as many plantings on this property as possible.
Yeah, that happens a lot, but
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to
It's-
pay.
it-
Yeah, of course.
I just want to make sure that we get,
You may want to change some of the plantings and the shrubbery to trees to accommodate that
As-
part of it.
As best we can, we're going
Okay,
to do that. And-
that's easy to figure out.
And
Phil
and if
can
I
handle that.
may, a lot of our, under the zoning hearing board process and the planning commission process was really about trying to provide some additional buffering along Pine and also to the rear of the property too, as well as to the front. So
I
it was,
don't care where it's at, all I care is that you have enough.
fair enough.
So we can make sure that, I was talking about the specific narrow area.
No, I don't care, I just want to make sure that if we were to say, okay, with this much green space, how much planting should we have? I don't care where it's at on there, but do we have it?
On the roofs.
Fair. All right, so the next waiver, number 10, this is one we discussed earlier regarding the parking in the backup area that we discussed. Number 11 is parking areas to be set back a minimum of 15 feet from the ultimate right-of-way and the property lines. We're asking for a waiver here because, again, due to the narrowness of the lot, there's just no way we can possibly accommodate that. However, to the councilwoman's point, we are doing our best to provide some buffering between the property lines and the roadway and the parking areas as well. So we're doing our best. The next one, number 12, which is, again, we've discussed before, which is curbing only related to drainage purposes, but otherwise a partial waiver to not curb the entire lots. Number 13 is to allow off-street commercial parking to be screened according to different standards. Again, these particular parking lots will not be publicly accessible. In fact, for the larger lot, I believe we have 18 parking spaces when we really only have 3 or 4 employees. So what we're asking for is a waiver from certain parking lot requirements to be able to fit exactly what we're proposing here on site. Number 14 is, again, waivers related to buffer yard and additional planting strips, which, again, are a function of the size of the lot, but also the topography, especially towards the rear, where you can't do something that would be more of a traditional buffer.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Kisselback?
Sure can.
Okay. You did a lot with the planning, it seems, and you seem like you're concerned about the neighbors and also the frontage on Bristol Road, okay? What about the aesthetics of the building itself? Is it, you see more modern-looking warehouses where it just doesn't look like a metal warehouse or like a warehouse with auto parts in it. It kind of looks, can you talk about that a little bit?
That was a big part of the zoning process, to be candid, because of the fact that there is a grade there and there are neighbors behind the property who were very concerned with that. And, initially, we had some different ideas in terms of the use and in terms of the structure. So this is something that obviously we're very cognizant of. And when Anton moves forward during the construction phase, look, he wants to be a part of this community. He wants to be here for a long time. And this is right on the roadway. So he is aware of that. And that's something that he obviously will be looking into as we go forward.
Do you know what the exterior is going to be built of? Like, it's not a metal building, for instance, or do you know what it's going to?
I don't think we know exactly at this point. Yeah. Yeah.
Bryce, in furtherance of Mr. Knowles' question, the notes on the plan say one of the conditions of the zoning variance was it must be generally consistent with the exhibit dated July 26, 2021, as revised 12/10/2021. Is that a building elevation, that exhibit, or what is that exhibit?
Probably a site plan. I don't think we had an architectural plan.
Okay.
That's probably reducing the footprint because we originally planned for 3 buildings and we had to shrink down.
It's probably a site plan.
Okay.
You have to repeat what he just said since we have it not recorded, so people at home.
Sure.
understand.
What we were discussing was, we haven't gotten to the architectural part at this point, partly because over the past couple of years, this project has gone through a number of iterations. Initially, it was 3 buildings, and the use was slightly different. There was additional tenant, so we've had to modify quite a bit, but it was mostly for engineering purposes, site plan purposes. We haven't really gotten to the architectural part of things yet.
Yes.
All right, it's a good question.
Okay, I have
I just
another-
drove by and I don't know where it was because I guess I was driving faster than I was supposed to, but nonetheless, I actually drove by a storage building. It's caught out of the corner of my eye, and I saw it up on the hill, and it was beautiful stone, brown stone as opposed to metal. I'm saying, wow, what a beautiful building for a storage center. And that's what Joe's concerned with. We don't want to have a metal-looking garage on Bristol Road because, first of all, the street is narrow, more narrow than it should be, and you're going to have a lot of cars at some point during the day just sitting there waiting to move along as the traffic stops with the lights and things like that. So people are going to observe that building. So I can only assume, as your presentation is being made to us, you want to make it to be a legacy for yourself also. And so you'll be looking to do something that we're proud of as well as you're proud of too.
Mr. Kisselback, can we make it a condition of the approval that they come back and we approve the elevations on the outside of the building? Because normally we have pictures or some kind of drawings of the outside. Because, he may think a metal building's nice, or he may think some modern-looking thing is nice, where the neighbors or us might not think that's...
Would you, I'm fine with that. I'll
But I have to ask Mr. Pizzo,
I'll suggest
if that's okay.
I'll suggest an alternative to that also, but I'm
Okay.
fine with what you're saying, that they could bring it back to our engineer and solicitor at that point, and they would give the approval of it and submit it to us. But I'm fine with it either way, Joe.
Can we do it that way, Mr. Pizzo?
If you'd rather not bring them back for another council presentation, you can, if I understand what you're suggesting, that the approval would be conditioned upon township approval of the building elevations, and that those elevations can be submitted to the Building and Planning Department, and the Building and Planning Department will make sure that you guys get them, the mayor gets them, and we can give a written okay. It's conditioned just like any of the other conditions that we put on.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. That works.
I think that's more than fair.
I have one question. How high is this building? See, it's 1 story, but how tall is it?
150 billion
I
feet.
don't think we have determined as of yet. It'll be compliant with the ordinance. I believe the ordinance is, 45 feet?
Yeah.
And it's a 1-story building, so it's just be high enough for overhead doors.
And how big of a drop is it on the back of the wall from the neighbors behind to that? Do you know?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
The drop from the neighbors behind on Dupala?
The
and
elevation
Lena?
difference?
Yeah, do you know?
It's probably, I would guess, 15 to 20 feet.
And again, that's one of the reasons why, we're not proposing any, office space up top or anything like that. Like Vince said, it's going to be one story, but just high enough so that way we can obviously get everything in that we need to load. But
Okay.
otherwise, there's no other waivers.
Well,
Apologies
let
for
me
taking
move
so
on,
long.
before you go further, let me move you on to, and I think you answered this, but I just want to have this on record, from the Bensalem Township Fire Rescue Department on the July 3rd letter. There were 4 items that were, I'm assuming, are addressed, which is a sprinkler permit and plans, underground fire main and fire hydrant permits and plans, fire alarm permits and plans, as well as hot works welding permits, if applicable.
All will complies.
Okay. I know you said that, but I want to have that on the record there.
Not a problem.
Okay. Are there any other questions on this proposal from our council members? Not hearing any. Anyone from the audience like to come forward? Please do come, sir, if you give us your name and your address.
My name's Anthony Zampiri. I own 4348 Grove Avenue and 4338 Grove Avenue. Basically, my questions are concerning the property that's on, was it 411 Bristol Road, the one that enters Grove Avenue there? Not really the warehouse, not Pine Side. I don't live over there. So my question is on Grove. Pretty much, I keep hearing Anton wants to be part of the community. He has engineers, he has lawyers, he has everything. He doesn't have a landscaper. Doesn't cut the grass, barely ever. You can't see out on the Bristol Road when you pull off Grove Avenue. Every time you pull out, you take your life in your own hands. Township sends a letter, you gotta wait, then you gotta comply, and then by that time, grass is 4 feet high again. Grove Avenue is not a safe street. You guys know the problem we have with quads and dirt bikes. That's not Anton's problem. That's a problem we have in the township. We also have the club at the end of the street. Sometimes people are a little too lit leaving the club, so we have those people coming off our street. It just doesn't feel like a safe atmosphere right there. Adding a garage there, I'm concerned, what kind of use? You say it's personal use, and I understand that. Are we going to be welding in there? Are we going to be working all hours of the day? Are we going to be painting cars in there? I could literally go on Amazon and buy a tent so I could paint a car in my own garage. What kind of work is going to be done there? What kind of cars are going to be stored there? I know you're putting Land Rovers in. I'm fine with that. I own classic cars. I'm completely fine with that. Are there going to be junkers lined up there in front of the property? Because when you got the lot originally where the warehouse is going to be, you had to remove all the beat-up Land Rovers that were parked there because they were just sitting in the grass. So my concern is the street that I live on. How's that garage going to be used? How's it going to be taken care of? Because right now, if you can't cut the grass, how can you maintain the property? That's my biggest concern.
Okay, could I have you address those? Sit down for 1 minute, sir, and if
Yes,
you
sir.
need to speak again, you certainly can come up.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate that, and obviously that's not a condition that we'll be maintaining moving forward. Part of the approvals that we received at zoning were no exterior storage, period. And we don't plan to do that for either parcel. And in terms of once we get moving on developing these lots in the very, very near future, obviously I think it'll be a little bit, not any justification, obviously. We should be cutting the grass, and obviously we will be doing that. But once the lots are improved, once we're there every day, once they're actively being used in part of the community, that will be a key part to the operations to make this look good. And that's one of the reasons why we're proposing all the extensive buffering that we were talking about today, even for such a small lot, is to make sure that this stays something that's going to look pretty, look like part of the community, and not be an eyesore. And we know that for many, many years, since the lot's been vacant, on and off, it really has been. So that's one of the things that we're really cognizant of and we're focused on, and it'll become, I think, a little bit easier as we move forward.
They shouldn't have to wait for you to do that. That land should be taken care of now, not later.
Yeah, if you can.
I understand the concerns with maintaining the landscape and the aesthetic, as was mentioned with the building, and I'd like to point out that this year there has not been a single notice sent out, and the township can review the records, or the board can review the township records. The grass has been maintained. There's a professional landscaping company maintaining the property. It's called Munns. They also do construction and landscaping. I can refer the invoices and all the dates that the property has been maintained. There has not been a single issue this year. We did have issues in the past where we hired a private party, and that ended up being just essentially an agreement between a private party that didn't hold up their end. I understand the concern of leaving Grove Avenue, and with the development of our property and what Vince has proposed, it would make Grove more accessible to Bristol, but the comments are frankly no longer relevant.
Yeah.
And relative to, okay, you've
and-
addressed that. Oh, go ahead. You want to
Just
continue?
one very briefly too. And when, I think part of the issue is when you're more or less an absentee property owner, because there's literally nothing on the properties right now, even when you have that contractor signed up, if there is a week stretch or a 10-day stretch where there is a lot of rain and maybe the grass is growing a little higher, we don't really see that as often as we would if we were on the property. So while we do have someone under contract and we are trying to be better property owners, especially compared to the past, because we did have issues in the past, that's something that I believe will be a non-issue once the properties are developed.
And what type of work is going to be done in the garage itself? Welding or painting, anything? What?
It's just a garage for me and my father to spend time in, so we're in the auto parts business as it is, so we're car guys and specifically classic Land Rover guys, so as much as we can do with our hands in terms of just bringing the cars back to life aesthetically and hand tools, but no power tools, no paint booths, nothing like removing seats, adding a steering wheel, changing the wheels, nothing.
May I ask why
No
it's
heavy.
2 stories? Is it truly going to be 2 stories internally?
Yeah, well, the first story is for the cars to roll in, and the second story is storage because we don't want to store outside. We understand how much of a nuisance it is and is an eyesore to have things outside. We plan to have the parts on the second floor.
Well, if you're restoring cars, you are going to do some painting. You don't have to do some painting.
No, there's third parties that do painting that are approved in paint booths. We currently work with a contractor in Bristol.
Okay, all right, so that answers that. Are you satisfied, sir, Anthony, with,
I guess, I mean, the only thing I could say is I took a picture of the grass on the way over, and you can't see on the Bristol Road.
Can I see the picture?
Sure.
show it to all of us, if you would, if you show it to Stacy.
So this is coming down Grove Avenue, right where all the vegetation is, that's their lot,
Okay.
okay? And this is looking out, if you stop at the stop sign, that's your view of Bristol Road.
Okay. That is, so there's a hill there, right? Like a,
And all the grass growing up. Yeah.
which, so I would ask the engineer too, since you have this, showing everybody else, that hill will be coming down, that's on there. Will the sight line get better then for, because now that the gentleman has brought that up, I go by there, but I don't go down there.
Yes, when we develop the property and do the grading and the retaining walls that we have, the sight lines will be opened up.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So when we do execute all the grading that we have proposed, the sight lines will be opened up, and it'll be improved at that intersection.
All right, we have the concern of our resident, and we have the promises from the applicant, and we only have to assume that the applicant is going to stay to his word, especially when it's a new development, that's going to be pristine in terms of being presented, and if there's any problem in the future, hopefully you do come before us so we can address it too. You can always call the mayor's office too, immediately, because this sometimes is a process where you have to go cite the individual, you have to go to court, and then the court usually gives them an extension, and so it becomes more of a arduous task to resolve the problem, but it does get done if the people are non-compliant. But I believe what I see is that we should have no problems in the future. But we appreciate you bringing it to our attention so we can be aware of it, for sure.
I'd like to make a quick comment. Anton, I think it's very important for you to understand that your neighbors' comments and concerns are relevant, whether they're prior, current, or future. Let's be good neighbors to each other. They live here.
So, as was mentioned, we did go through zoning hearing quite a few times, a handful of times quite literally, and I've personally met with over 40 of the neighbors there, and I had neighbors sign petitions that they are for the construction, and I understand Anthony's comments and concerns. The grass does grow. I wish I could stop it from growing, have the contractor come out more. They're on a bi-weekly schedule. The comments are extremely valid. A lot of the comments initially were about stormwater. Vince did a great job, as was explained, with the stormwater management, because currently the site is vacant, and then the blacktop there kind of acts as a runway. A lot of the neighbors are getting flooded, so we really want to get started on the development to make those improvements. A lot of what the grass does grow, but the factor that affects the sightline the most is actually the slope. So even if the grass was cut to 4 inches, 3 inches, 2 inches, it's still really difficult to get out of growth. So even if we cut the grass every day, it's not going to improve much until we actually get started on it. And as was mentioned by the chairman there, this is a pride project for us. It's going to be our HQ landmark, so it's in our best intention to make a pride statement not only for us, but for the township and to better the locale.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Mr. Pizzo, the smaller, the shop here, what is that zoned? Do you know? I'm sorry.
It's in a general commercial.
General commercial.
Mr. Worcester would know offhand a
Okay,
little
I'm sorry.
faster than me.
Okay, so it's general commercial. And you're saying it's for private use now, and it's in general commercial. My concern, Mr. Pizzo, in the future, in terms of the size that this is, there's no way that this could be a rental space and nobody can put any, like a rental housing unit and subdivide it in a sense and put somebody upstairs on the second floor. And given the parking spots, because at this point, and also a future use, given the fact that the number of parking spots are minimal.
Well, I don't think a general commercial allows that, does it?
They don't, but you never know what's
And
supposed to
if I-
do.
if I
I know
may
that they
too-
don't, but I just want to be sure.
There was a condition on the zoning relief that there would be no public access on that site. So it could never, even in the future, if Anton
So
sells.
that's going to be deed restricted.
Happy to make it deed restricted. So that way everyone knows, not a problem at all.
That was actually one of my comments in terms of that. Just given the size of it, I don't want, you may not always be here and you're going to sell it. And I want to be sure that we don't create more issues where there's a lot of traffic coming out of here that affects Grove Avenue, because this, as the gentleman said, this road has enough of its own issues that we're trying to address.
Yeah. So actually, when we set on the project, it was originally, yeah, sure, of course, yeah. So the zoning has always been general commercial on both these parcels, but the preference of zoning was actually be residential because it was originally zoned as residential. So we kind of did exactly what you're saying and took the residential allowances out of things and made it a commercial space to alleviate the use for any sort of personal property.
Right, so by right, you wouldn't be allowed to do it, regardless if
Exactly.
we didn't do anything.
Exactly,
Yeah, okay. Very good concern, however.
But we'll add a deed restriction on there.
Whoever makes the motion can do whatever they like. All right, any other questions from the council members? Any questions from the audience? Not hearing any, I'm going to call for a motion to be put on the floor to accept this with the waivers that were presented to us and the restrictions and/or deny it. Who would like to put a motion on the floor?
Yeah, I'll put a motion that we approve Brilla LLC, Anton, I can't say her last name. It's
Potterchen.
Potterchen?
It breaks the R, so it's Potter, yeah.
Potterchen. Okay, 4034 and 411 Bristol Road, Auto Parts Warehouse with Garage, tax parcel 02-017-068-001 and 02-017-090-001. And we be under subdivision and land development, we would give a waiver on number 2 and a waiver on accepting 2 and 3 is, 1 and 3 is comply. A waiver on number 4 for sidewalks and paying in lieu of. Same with curbs, any curbs that aren't being required or pay in lieu of. We're also adding that you'll agree that per our engineer, any plantings that are short, you'll pay in lieu of to our tree plant thing. There's also an impact fee that you'll be required to pay right above an impact fee. And then also, we're accepting the variances that you're requesting on page 4 from 1 through 14 that we reviewed. And also, there'll be a deed restriction that there will not be an apartment or residential housing on the smaller lot. Yeah, and it'll be used as a private use, not open to the public. Okay, is there anything else, Mr. Pizzo, that I should add? Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. And also, prior to approval, the applicant will present the exterior building to our planning and engineer, who will in turn have it reviewed by council, and then the township would have to approve the exterior of the building that you're building in reference to your warehouse. Okay, anything else, Mr. Pizzo?
PennDOT's approval?
No, so if I understood
Yeah.
your motion correctly, Mr. Knowles, under the TPD letter from April 3rd of 2024, which is Plan Review Number 3, under the Subdivision Land Development Ordinance section, it was your intention to grant a will, or item 1 would be a will comply.
Yes.
Item 2 would be a waiver. Item 3 would be a partial waiver with a fee in lieu of where the required curbs are otherwise not provided. Item 4 would be a waiver with a fee in lieu of, and item 5 would be a waiver. And then moving forward to the waivers section, you're granting waivers of items 1 through 14. As to item number 3 on that list, which is the additional right-of-way, council is approving the waiver request with the acknowledgement that that waiver ultimately will be subject to approval by PennDOT, and you'll comply with whatever conditions PennDOT imposes.
Yeah, thank you, yep.
Items 7 and 8 were discussed earlier regarding the fees in lieu of, and the same with 9. And item 12, again, the same thing. It's a partial waiver and a fee in lieu of for those parts of the curbing that can't be complied with. As to the plantings, I believe your motion was and is that the applicant will comply with all of the township's requirements for planting. To the extent that the plan does not, the applicant will provide a fee in lieu of those plantings that aren't provided as determined by the township engineer.
That's
The applicant will comply with the fire marshal review letter of July 3rd, 2024. The applicant will comply with the TPD traffic review letter, which I believe is traffic review number 3, dated April 3rd, 24, and that includes your reference, Mr. Knowles, to the impact fee, and that will be paid by the applicant prior to the application for any building permits for the site. The applicant also noted during the hearing, Mr. Knowles, and I don't know if you want this included in your motion, that, well, first, one thing that was mentioned again is, as to the building elevations, the condition of approval is that the applicant will submit building elevations to the Department of Building and Planning, and the township has to approve those building elevations.
Correct.
Applicant is agreeable to that. You mentioned that it was a condition of the zoning approval that there would be no exterior storage on either parcel. I believe, Mr. Knowles, based on the conversation, that you may want that included as a note on the
Correct.
plan as part of your approval as well.
I'll amend my motion to include that.
It was also mentioned that there would be no heavy equipment or machinery on site in the small garage or on the small lot. Again, you may want that added as a note to the plan, since that was a representation.
I'll amend my motion to add that also.
And then finally, you did mention that the private garage would not be able to be used as a residential property, either as an ownership or a rental property, and similarly, that it would be deed restricted so that it would only be for private use, that there would be no commercial use, notwithstanding the commercial zoning. And that is also a note that you would want added to the plan.
I'll amend that to be added to the plan.
I believe that's everything that you mentioned, Mr. Wilson.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I amended my motion to add those couple items that Mr. Pizzo added, and that's my motion to approve.
All right, so we do have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
We have a second motion. Any additional discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor signify with an eye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Record should also reflect the McWigan handed up the proof of mail.
Okay.
Adjacent property,
Exactly.
and that is in order.
All right, so the appropriate notification was made and it received by our attorney. Chick-fil-A, Chick-fil-A. Pardon me?
For the Phillies planes?
Yes.
Deb, what's the score?
Thank you.
Phillies planes?
Thank you. They played Pittsburgh yesterday. Thank you. All right, we have agenda item number 8, applicant Chick-fil-A, 1525 Street Road, 02071 242-001, and we have an attorney,
Evening. Mike
Mr.
McGinnis from
Michael
Begley Carlin.
McGinnis, representing the applicant. Yes, sir?
Yes, sir. I'm going to be, I think, a bit briefer than I normally am here. I am here on behalf of Chick-fil-A this evening, and this is the property located at 1525 in Street Road. I am sure that council is very familiar with this site. Just very briefly to discuss what we're proposing. This is located in the R44 district. It is approximately 1.5 acres, and the Chick-fil-A team has been working in concert with the township and the township consultants for a bit over a year to try to come up with some improvements for this site, understanding that we're dealing with some site constraints that we're not able to surpass, but we do believe we have a plan in front of you for consideration that is going to be a marked improvement here. So I'm going to highlight at a high level what is before you, and then I have Santiago Uribe from Bowler who's going to do a little bit of a more thorough walkthrough of the plan, and I have Gideon Lee here who's able to address any questions council should have. So if you look at the site plan, you can see we are proposing the addition of a canopy. If you're looking at the building from Street Road to the right, you can see the canopy we're proposing to install, which is an amenity, and you might be familiar with this at other Chick-fil-A locations, for Chick-fil-A employees to shield them from the elements depending upon the season. And then as you traverse through the double lanes, you get to the rear of the building, and presently there's a dumpster back there that is being relocated to the rear of the property, and what that's allowing us to do is extend the drive aisle there, which is going to provide some benefits in terms of additional queuing and stacking on site, because that's been a concern at the location. And then you see the installation, and again, I'll have Santiago address this in more depth in a second. As you get to the window, we're making some modifications. And then importantly, we've worked with Phil's team here. We're adding another point of egress, and we'll zoom in on this in a moment. But as you go back through the site, if you look at the existing conditions, and now I'm regretting my denial of Santiago letting us start with the existing conditions on the aerial, but the existing conditions, it's just basically a line here. I'm going to put this up, Santiago, if you have it up already. So you can see right now, as you go through and you get to this portion of the plan where there's cars that are parked, it creates a more difficult situation in terms of navigating the points of ingress, egress, and the traffic circulation. So what we've come up with in dialogue again with TPD is sort of maneuver this a bit to create a point of egress to the closer section of Street Road. So Santiago will address the benefit that that's going to provide to the site, but we think combined, we have the canopy that we're adding for our benefit. We have the additional queuing, the relocation of the dumpster, which is going to provide a benefit from a stacking standpoint. And then we have the point of egress and some minor parking modifications.
The canopy is that dark gray
That's correct.
rectangular on the bottom?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
So the two lines here, that's going to be an exit to Street Road, rather than coming back and dealing with all the traffic in front of
Correct.
the building?
Yep,
For those people that are going to Street Road and right.
that's right. Yes.
And then if you're going to Street Road, you'd have to come to the back to go down, to go, if you're going to be making the left, to go out through Wellington Estates entrance?
Yes, I think that's correct. That's right. Yep. So when you aggregate it together, again, I'm not going to stand up here and say that all of the issues are going to be magically resolved, but we think this is going to be a significant step in the right direction to providing some relief to the property owner here, as well as providing a benefit to the other businesses, and importantly, a benefit to Bensalem residents who are coming to this location, so they're going to have a better situation to navigate moving forward. There is no building addition. We're not adding anything that we would project to generate additional traffic to the site. So there's not a kitchen addition or any sort of building expansion. It's just site improvements that we are trying to effectuate as part of our land development. The effort that both Bowler and TPD, I think, have undertaken here is reflected, hopefully, in the rather succinct review letters that we've received. There's almost no comments. It's basically one page from a civil engineering standpoint and 4 comments from a traffic engineering standpoint. And the waivers, we'll cover them in a second, but they're very straightforward. So I think the scope of this is fairly minor, but we hope the impact is going to be larger than that. And with that, I'd like to have Santiago do a very brief overview, and then we'll jump right into the waivers and answer any questions council has.
All right, Mike, thank you. I really don't have that much more to add. I think Mike did a great job at explaining really what we're doing here. I'll elaborate a little bit on the traffic solution that we came up with. So as you see, what people do today is they come into the site from Street Road, and there's a lot of congestion on that intersection between the Chick-fil-A and the property to the south on that main intersection. You know, as today, right now, people come into the property, make a quick left and a quick right into the drive-through lane, and then come out of the drive-through and then make a left to basically come back out the same way. What we're doing is we're providing an additional means of egress from that situation along the front of the Chick-fil-A building and relieving some stress and congestion at that main intersection between the two uses. There is some additional signage that has been proposed as part of this application where it will guide guests from Chick-fil-A to really come out of the drive-through, keep going through the parking, make a left, and then come out of that right-only egress point onto Street Road. We are also adding, from TPD's suggestion, some flexible bollards along that Street Road access, which will prevent people from maybe changing their mind and deciding that instead of coming out to Street Road, they want to go back into the shopping center. There will be delineators there that will prevent them from doing so and making sure people are just kind of continuing right out onto Street Road. In addition to what Mike went over, I think another important element of this proposal here is the location between the Chick-fil-A and the Texas Roadhouse. Right now, there were some curb islands that are there today. We're proposing to eliminate those and just providing some removable bollards along there. And what this will do is it will allow the Chick-fil-A operator to, in the event that the queuing is kind of piling up too much and there's a lot of backups going on, they can safely allow cars to exit out of the drive-through onto that two-way between the Texas Roadhouse and the Chick-fil-A. That way, speeding up the process for the drive-through and just getting guests out of there quicker.
But they wouldn't be coming on the area that's going, north, next to Chick-fil-A?
Correct.
They would just be in that gray dotted area?
Yeah, so the gray dotted area is basically just, new asphalt that will be installed there as opposed to the curb.
Is that 2 lanes where you're in right now, the beige section? Is that 2?
Yeah, so right now, in the existing conditions, you can kind of see, I can pan over. Right now, you have 2 lanes coming in, and it all kind of funnels into one, starting around this point. And that's we are proposing as part of this, and Mike mentioned it, moving the trash enclosure to the rear and really extending those 2 lanes out to just maximize the queuing space before funneling into the one egress point out of the drive-through order point or pickup window.
And then you have the bollards there. It's not going to be a regular feature that's utilized, but in the point, if there's an emergency, you want to have the flexibility there to allow a car to escape if it's necessary as it goes to more of a bottleneck. So it's not going to be a regular occurrence, but that's what that feature is there for predominantly.
Can cars that, like, don't get, say you get to the window and they say your order's not ready, pull over somewhere, or now they go around to the front, is that what they're going to continue to do?
You want to speak to that?
Operationally, Gideon Lee with JLL supporting Chick-fil-A. So that is an option for the operator to pull the car forward. It's not a desired option, it's the worst case, but with the removal of the bollards, team members can deliver upstream out of the window door to cars 2, 3, and 4 behind. So if you're sitting at the window, you have a $50 order or you have 5 milkshakes, instead of pulling you around, with the removal of bollards, you can safely move cars 2, 3, 4, potentially around car 1 to bypass
Serve the
them.
ones behind, let them pull out.
Exactly. But at the same time, they still have the operator has the option to pull car 1 forward and park them. But then it provides additional footpath for our team members to get to that car. Whereas in this proposed scenario, they can deliver upstream to cars 3 and 4, so that it becomes more efficient. We're adding capacity there.
Well, I think, not that I'm an expert in Chick-fil-A service, but I think that
Just Chick-fil-A.
that coverage for the employees is really going to help, because the fact that they're out there
Exactly.
and taking orders and giving change and taking payments actually helps. But you're not going to restrict any of these lanes. So I was at another one, not this one, and the other lane was for like pre-orders or something,
Right.
and
So-
no one was in it, and everybody was in one lane
Right.
because no one called on the app or whatever.
Right, so unfortunately with mobile through, you need 2 full lanes all the way around the building, but unfortunately we don't have the real estate here yet. We've been working closely with our neighbor to the plan north, but we'll get to that point when we get to that point, but we're working with our confines. So long story short, it won't be a mobile through or have the ability to do mobile through, so it'll be strictly drive through.
So anybody that wants to just drive through and wait and, get
Correct.
served on through those 2 lines.
And to your point, with the canopies, again, they have fans in the summer and then heaters in the winter. So whereas today, where you don't have a canopy, team members are not going to be out there when it's blizzarding outside. Whereas, in the proposed setting, you'll have more team members. And what we found is, so that canopy, once you enter the drive-through, it's called a face-to-face canopy. It allows you to order quicker, and it organically moves cars quicker through the drive-through versus ordering at the ordering at the order point, and then taking a long time to look at the menu board and so on and so forth. So those team members do provide a quicker expeditious path, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I have one comment. As you're going through this, can we please have the owner put in better stops at the 4-way? Because the stop signs get hit, and there's nothing on the road that says stop. So people coming out of Golden Corral, and sometimes even out of Chick-fil-A, as you're coming in off a street road, I'm sorry, I have 2 kids and I'm there a lot. People just kind of go right through it. So people, even coming in off a street road, kind of go right through it and don't pay attention. So I think better, like you have on the one side there where the word stop is, it's not on any, it's all worn away. So that needs to be improved, needs to be fixed.
Is that a stop sign right there?
Yeah, this is a new stop sign right here. There's another new one here, but I think refreshing the pavement markings, we can accommodate that as well.
Yeah.
And we are adding that do not block box at that intersection you see at the drive-through entrance.
Yeah, they do it all the time.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter, they'll still do it.
They'll still block it here and there, but.
Yeah, I go around and I don't know why people don't use the app
Right.
and pick up curbside. It just amazes me.
Thank you
Sorry.
for your service.
And we can make sure it's adequately signed and work with Phil and Bill.
Yeah, because people just hit that stop sign all the time as they're making the right into Golden Corral. I don't know how they hit it, but they hit it. So,
a great point. Thank you.
Are we looking at your app?
What's that?
Are we looking at your app, placing your order?
Nah, that's what you have a kid for.
Okay? Is that your presentation then?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Substantially, happy to jump into the waivers.
All right, subdivision and land development ordinance on page 2, is that where we're going? And
Yes.
that's on, make sure we're on cue, July 15th, 2024.
Correct.
Letter from Traffic Planning and Design. All right, Michael?
That's
you
right.
go to number 1, section 201-41.
Yes, and I'll take this in tandem. So it's number 1 in the review letter, but you'll note at the bottom where it says requested waivers 1 and 2 actually both reference 20141, so I'll say it at the same time. They're both existing features waivers, one of which is to not show existing monument elevations for the boundary line, and the second is to allow existing utilities to be shown within 100 feet of the site boundary. So they're both from 20141. That is a waiver request. We have a waiver request from 20162, which is an in tandem submission for preliminary final review. And then we have 2 waiver requests, and again, I'm going to do the same thing I just did. Number 3 is 201-112, and they are both from sections 201-112. If you look at requested waivers 4 and 5 at the bottom of the page, one of which is to allow excess lighting across the property line. I want to be abundantly clear about this because it was discussed at the Planning Commission. There is no light spillage off the property to the immediate right. Looking at the plan, there is an existing condition where there's some light spillage onto the property to the immediate north, which is minor, but that is an existing condition and will remain, but there is no impact on any non-commercial property with this. And then the same thing with the other comment at 201-112, which is to not have a planting strip provided at the end of the parking and the outside wall of the building. And again, that is an existing condition, which we're not modifying as part of the development. So both of the waiver requests from 201-112 relate to existing conditions that we are not modifying with the development.
Okay. And that's all requesting for waivers from the subdivision?
Right. The only other comment, and I don't know, I'll defer to Mr. Worsta as to whether we're couching this as a waiver, is on comment 6 on page 3, is to not provide volume and peak rate calcs because of the limited nature of the project, which is again covered in the 1 stormwater management comment. So if it's council's pleasure, Mr. Worsta's pleasure to have that listed as a waiver request, we're happy to have it noted as such. We did that really as an abundance of caution with our waiver letter.
Since, even though this is minor in nature, however, it should increase the amount of activity on that property, would there be an impact fee? The impact fee is...
It's
$14,805.
Right.
Okay, so that has to be included in the...
That is in the
Traffic.
traffic review, and the 4 comments in the traffic review are will complies, and that is inclusive of our acknowledgement as to the impact fee.
Okay. Any other part of your presentation?
That is it.
That concludes it?
Thank
Okay,
you.
any other questions from our council members? Anyone from the audience like to comment? If not, I will accept a motion on the floor regarding Chick-fil-A's proposal, 1525 Street Road.
I just have one comment. There is a notation regarding the stormwater management. Proposing site changes will decrease the amount of impervious coverage.
Correct.
Okay. I'd just like to note it. But can you explain where that's happening, though, very quickly?
What kind of magical wand do you
I'm
have to
sorry.
make it happen?
Sure, no worries. So I guess from the rendering here, you can kind of see anything in green as the additional
Okay.
pervious. The majority of which is coming from that new landscape bed really along the, I guess, plan right of the new double drive-through lanes. Currently, that was all paved and it had the trash enclosure there. We're turning that into landscape, which is helping us offset some of the parking modifications we had to do as a result of these circulation adjustments, which is giving us a net gain in pervious area, which is why it's part of the waiver request of excluding any stormwater management.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Are they 3 new parking spots there at the corner?
Correct. Yeah. We're adding the landscape bed to the left there near the right-only egress, almost like swapping those two. We're providing that in coordination with TPD's office to provide just a better sight distance from cars exiting out onto the main.
Instead of having a car parked at where you might be making the right out, you have that as green space.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, I ask for a motion to be put on the floor.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept Chick-fil-A plan as presented, 1525 Street Road, restaurant with drive-through, tax parcel 020712420001, as per traffic and planning's letter dated July 15, 2024. We are granting waivers starting on page 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 for the volume and peak rate calculations that weren't included, but the applicant also agrees to pay the stated input fee, is it? Impact fee, I'm sorry. Impact fee of $14,000 that was mentioned that will be paid. Other than that, that's my motion. Mr. Pizzo, do you think we're okay, or?
Yes, Mr. Knowles, to the extent that you'd referenced the traffic impact fee, that's actually a part of TPD's traffic review letter number 3, also dated July 15, 2024. And so, inasmuch as there are 4 comments in there, all of which are will comply items, one of which is the impact fee you just mentioned, the applicant will comply with all of the comments from that letter.
Okay, I'll amend mine.
All notifications in order, Mr. Pizzo?
Notices to adjacent property owners were provided to me prior to this evening's meeting, and they do appear to be in order.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
We have a second on the motion. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. And against, the abstentions, unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Kisselbeck, I just wanted to make one quick comment after
Yes.
this, that compliments to Mr. McGinnis and Santiago here for, this was a bear to get
Oh, I know it
any
was.
improvement
Sure,
at
just
this
looking at it
location.
was like, good luck.
And they really worked hard with our team
Yeah,
to
that was
make it,
it.
and we're very complimentary with each other.
It was
Thank
that
you.
5
It was-
pounds of chicken in that 1 pound bag, you know?
And it was absolutely a shared effort, so thank you as always.
Thank you for cooperation. We love your product, and we always.
out there.
And the operator did want to be here tonight, but he had, prior obligations, but he thanks the board as well.
Thank you. Okay. All right. You want to hear this, Mr. McGinnis, or you're out of here? Agenda item number 9, escrow release for Chick-fil-A. You'll like to hear it. Your people here would like to hear it, that's for sure. Okay, Quentin?
Good evening, council. So let me get this out of here. I got him. Okay, this is escrow release number 1 for Chick-fil-A at 3621 Horizon Boulevard. This is for the modifications that were done for minor land development. This is a first and final release. The project has been done for some time, but was not formally requested. At this time, it has been requested, which we are releasing final escrow.
All right, and that's the amount of $316,890.20.
Correct.
And this would be subject to the approval of their accounting department. Well, I'd like to ask for a motion to be put on the floor.
I'll put a motion on the floor to approve escrow release for Chick-fil-A at 3621 Horizon Boulevard, tax parcel number 001018026, in the amount of $316,890.20 to be reviewed and approved by the Finance Department, or verified by the Finance Department, leaving a remaining amount of 0.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor.
Second.
Second on the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
And against, the abstentions. We have a second release.
Yes. This is escrow release number 2 for Faith Unity on Richelieu Road. was requested for $151,000, $151,121. We have reviewed the request and have reduced it down to release of $135,554.75.
All right, any questions? I'll ask for a motion to be put on the floor.
I'll put a motion that we approve the release for Faith Unity Tax Parcel 2155002 of $135,554.75, leaving a balance of $180,912.17 as audited by our Finance Department. That's it.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
We have a second on the motion. All those in favor? Aye. And against? The abstention? Unanimous? Thank you, Quentin.
Welcome.
Agenda item number 11, public comment. Anyone like to come forward? Not at this time. We'll close that. Other business from council members and supporting personnel. Phil Worcester, you have anything this evening?
No, sir.
Debbie McCreen, would you like to add anything? We have some signed signatures to be signed. Mr. Pizzo?
Council may recall there are a few people who appeared at last month's meeting, one of whom was Rebecca Colagreco, who had some concerns about earned income tax that she believed had been paid by her late husband but had not been credited to her account, and that she was concerned about notices that she had received and the effect all of this might have on her credit. As we said we would, the next day, John Tchaikovsky, the township's finance manager and deputy director of administration, spoke with the township's contact at Keystone. They are the earned income tax collector. They assured him that Ms. Colagreco's account was marked paid in November of 2023 after the last payment had been made on that. As you may recall, during her presentation to us, she had paperwork going back to April of 2023, but nothing newer. And apparently notices, we're told, did go out in November, in the beginning of December, advising that the payment had been made in full and the issue was closed. In any event, Mr. Tchaikovsky got copies of that paperwork, spoke with Mrs. Colagreco, shared the copies of that with her for her records, and so that she could share that with her accountant. And so wanted to just update you on that, that matter was taken care of by the administration. To the extent that she raised concerns about her credit, as I hope council is aware, but perhaps not, Keystone is not permitted by state law to make reports of delinquent earned income taxes to credit reporting bureaus. So if somehow this has had an impact on her credit, then she needs to contact those credit bureaus because, again, Keystone would not and did not report any delinquency. Not that there was any delinquency, but had there been, it would not have been reported by Keystone. Same way that the IRS and the State Department of Revenue also don't make reports to credit reporting bureaus. They may file liens, and liens subsequently get picked up on lien and judgment searches, but they don't make direct reports to credit reporting bureaus. So something that if any of those in the public weren't aware.
Thank you for that report and the concerns of that individual, how it was followed through by our township and the administration. Thank you.
Certainly. You may recall also that a resident who lives on Langstreth Street came and spoke, shared some concerns about the St. Catherine Drexel property. And I believe her sister, who lives on Gravel Pike, may have also been there with her. Township, primarily the Director of Public Safety and the Director of Building and Planning, as well as me, have been in ongoing communication, and I'm sorry that Mr. McGinnis left because he actually could probably give you a more complete report than me. The township shared with the property owner, the equitable owner, as well as the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament, who are still the title owners of the property, those concerns. We were advised that they reached out and spoke to the resident, I believe not only the resident who was here, but other residents on Langstreth as well, to hear their concerns, to share with them what it is that the Catherine Drexel owners are in the process of doing. One of the things that they are proposing will be to add on-site security at that location. I don't want to say specifically the hours because I don't want to share with the world when they may or may not be there, but it would certainly be during the hours that Ms. Papone, I believe it was her last name, shared about concerns that was happening there. They are reviewing and are supposed to have to us, I believe, before the end of this week, an updated and comprehensive plan as to what security measures ultimately are being taken. Part of the discussion is to take down, as you know, the plans call for taking down some of the buildings that are not of historic value, and perhaps seeing what can be done with those buildings to make them less of an attractive nuisance to have invitees on the site. They're also the owners are also, we're being told, removing from the building those things that are potentially of value, and storing them off-site so that people who might be trying to make their way into the buildings, there's not going to be anything for them to remove, whether it's in a way of parts of the facilities or relics that might still be on site. So they are addressing it. The township continues to monitor those situations. We do have Bensalem Police patrolling the property as well. Again, in an effort to, the township's first and foremost concern is the preservation of those historic structures. So that's where we continue to hit the property owners the hardest.
Thank you for the in-depth report. I know it's been a problem for quite some time. And as you said, looters come in there and even take out the copper and the wiring from electrical things, and I didn't know there were relics in there also, but whatever it is, if it's not attached, and if it is attached.
I'm saying relics. Now, what I'm calling relics may not be,
Well, I understand.
as the church defines them, relics. I'm just saying things that are
Okay.
still in there.
I understand. All right, thank you, Mr. Fonson.
Certainly. Lastly, because I don't want him to feel that he's getting short shrift, I believe Mr. Mattingly, who lives across the street from the golf course, came with a bucket of golf balls, sharing his concerns about golf balls leaving the golf course in the vicinity of the 11th hole. As was shared that night, the township, and some of you who may have been to the golf course recently, and as Phil can share with you, the work on the 12th hole, I believe now is completed. The township has some other projects that are in the works, primarily focused on the buildings themselves. But the township is working on a plan to address the problem that comes of balls leaving the 11th hole. So he hasn't been forgotten, and to the extent that he was here with the other speakers, wanted to make sure he was aware as well.
Yeah, I think he was pretty well satisfied with the answers we had given him, I believe anyway, so thank you for that update also. All right, then we move to our council members. Michelle, we'll start with you.
Well, Mr. Pizzo, thank you for your always thorough response and review and work, especially tonight for the follow-up on those topics and helping me get this resolution put together and move forward this evening. I'd like to congratulate Councilman Joe Knowles on being recognized as Bensalem Rotarian of the Year.
Congratulations,
yes.
Joe.
Yeah, he does do a lot for our community, of course, being a member of our board here. He also serves on St. Charles Board. He's a Rotarian. Anytime I give him a call, he's been a great mentor and friend to me. So thanks for all you do, Joe, and congratulations on your recognition. And then my prayers go out for the continued healing of David Dutch and James Copenhaver, who were injured in the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. My understanding is that they are doing better. They're okay. I don't know if they're out of the hospital yet, but I understand that they're making progress, which is great. And also, of course, prayers to the Compentor family. It was a very tragic, sad, and just very upsetting day in the history of our country. So I pray for our nation. And I think that's it. I hope you're all enjoying your summer. And thanks.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Polari?
Yes, nothing.
Nothing at this time? Mr. Knowles?
Yeah, I would just thank Mr. Benitez again, and it was, been doing Rotary for 12 years, and I especially like, it was enjoyable. My grandfather was one of the starting members when they actually had rotary phones. He was actually one, yeah. So it was a nice gesture, and 3/4 of it is showing up, actually, which is a lot in life. So if you show up, eventually you'll be recognized, I guess. But I appreciate that, and I also add to Ms. Benitez's comments about the prayers for the people who were injured and the firefighter chief who lost his life, and his last act in life was covering his wife and children, daughter. So what a heroic thing to do, and he lived a great life, and prayers to his family. So prayers are our country, too. But that's all. Thank you.
Stacy Champion?
Thank you, Mr. Pisa, for all the updates, as Ms. Benitez said, and for the work on the resolution. Hopefully, the state legislature will hear us, given the fact that we already have a lot of high-density housing within Bensalem, as many communities do around the state. We should be able to dictate what we deem is best for our residents. Secondly, most importantly, the people who were killed and harmed, and on the awful Saturday event last week. My heart and prayers and feelings. It's very discomforting. Outside of that, congratulations to Holy Ghost Prep. I don't think we've had a meeting since then to congratulate them on their state championship win for baseball.
Baseball, that's right.
No.
So huge congratulations.
That's right. I saw that.
We are very lucky here in Bensalem. We have great educational choices. We have great sports teams for our kids, no matter which school they go to. And it's great to recognize these young gentlemen who worked very hard this year and got to an amazing place. I think it was, is it their first state championship with that?
Yeah, I think
that
they
one?
weren't participating in that, so I think it's their
Yeah,
first.
in that division. So congratulations to all those young men, and best wishes for their future endeavors. And don't forget, we still have concerts left for the summer. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and thank you.
Okay,
I just wanted to add real quick, because you mentioned baseball, that the Bensalem High School program had their second player drafted by the pros out of college, but he was drafted by the pros. Unfortunately, I can't think of his name, but he was a pitcher for the baseball team. And he's the second kid from that class, from that era, recent era of Bensalem High School, has been drafted into the National Baseball.
all right, next month he can bring his name back, but we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Comment, for sure. All right, I'll just conclude by agreeing with everyone, what they said this evening. I absolutely agree with it, and I'll just call the meeting to an end at this time. God bless you.